You're listening to the Urban Sports Scene. We're here to recap the Washington Capitals 4-1 victory over the Montreal Canadiens in Game 5 of the first round in the Eastern Conference of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. What is first? I am Wole, and I'm joined by former WNST's Capitals reporter Ed Frankovic. What's up, Ed?
I'm doing well. It's going to be a fun night. I'm
It
excited to
is.
talk about this win and moving to the second round.
I know it's going to be a very fun night. But before we talk about the game, let's knock out some particulars. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and other podcast platforms. Just search the Urban Sports Scene. Make sure you subscribe. If you're on YouTube right now, make sure you hit that red subscribe button to the Urban Sports Scene YouTube channel. Hit that red subscribe button. Also like this video. Don't forget to tweet us at Urban Sports Scene. Hit us up on IG and TikTok at Urban Sports Scene. And also like our Urban Sports Scene Facebook page. Also, join our Urban Sports Scene Facebook group. Just search Urban Sports Scene, sports bloggers, sports podcasters, and sports debates. All right, let's get into it. Like I mentioned, the Washington Capitals 4-1 victory over the Montreal Canadiens to eliminate the Canadiens. 4-1. In terms, and to me, that's a good look for this team. But your overall thoughts on the game?
Well, I like the way they came out and just really didn't give Montreal. Actually, Montreal had eight of the first nine shots.
Yeah, I
So
was going to
once,
say something about how they came out. I was
yeah,
annoyed how they came out. I thought they
yeah,
came out a little sloppy, but because you talked about this before, and they came out sloppy in the beginning. Luckily, Montreal didn't make them pay. But yeah, you can continue
yeah.
on.
You're right. Yeah, it was 8-1 in shots. Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
LT was great, and
Mm-hmm.
he was the story of
Yes.
the series for Washington, along with Tom Wilson. We'll get into all that,
Mm-hmm.
but we talked about in our after Game 4 desperation. Montreal was going to come out with some desperation, and they
Mm-hmm.
certainly did. And the Capitals weathered the storm, mainly thanks to their goaltender, Logan
Yes.
Thompson. And then the Capitals got a power play, which is big, and right off that face-off, Strome right to
Ooh.
Ovi to make it
Oof.
1-0. And you
Perfect.
could kind of feel some wind come out of the sails of the Canadians right then and there.
Mm-hmm. So you feel how big was that for the Caps for Ovi to get the lead? Well, the game winning goal, honestly, because it really was a game winning goal, but getting the goal to pretty much start off the night for the Capitals.
I think it was huge, Wole, because we talked after Game 4. Ovechkin did not have a good Game 4.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh-huh.
outside of being a decoy on the game winner, he really didn't do a whole lot in that game. And for him to get that goal early got him some confidence. He was definitely a big factor all night, mainly physically. His
Yes.
physicality, along with Wilson's, was a big difference in this series, and it's similar to when they won the cup in 2018 when they beat Tampa, a very talented Tampa team. And
Yeah. Very
not,
timely.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to compare that Montreal team now to that Tampa team the Capitals beat, but that was a physical series, and the Capitals wore them down, and the Capitals just wore Montreal down. So it was really big for Ovi to get that goal, and then he really skated well the rest of the game, and then to get the next power play goal. So we talked about the power play did not click at
Yes.
all in Game
Two
4.
for
Scored two right off the bat, right?
Yeah. 2 for 3, I believe. Right? Was it two for
Yep.
three in the power play? Um. And can we talk about that too? Also, and throughout this series, we talked about how the Canadian special teams have been better than the Capitals special teams. But in this game, the Caps were were better in terms of penalty killing and also in terms of like the power play, and especially like the Ovi's first goal. I believe like the Habs had they had a power play opportunity. Obviously, then I think there was a slashing play that was called against
Yep.
the Canadians, which evened it up at 4-4. But then eventually, the Caps had the power play. But just talk about how the Caps were able to kill their power play, and then that also switched back having Obi score that goal, how big that was in terms of the momentum of the game.
Yeah, I think, and we talked about this also after Game 4. The kill at the start of the third period in Game 4
Mm-hmm.
gave the Capitals the confidence not only that they could stop the Montreal power play,
Mm.
but that they could get back into their game. And Carberry talked about it after the game. After you and I talked right after the game, I watched
Mm-hmm.
some of the clips of him over the next couple of days, and that penalty kill was really huge. And I think the penalty kill to start of Game 5 was big. And like you said, they ended up drawing a penalty on it. They got
Mm-hmm.
Protas back on the penalty kill,
Yes.
and Protas was a big factor in the game. First game back in 3 weeks since he got cut, and he's
Mm-hmm.
just a big body. He's really good at even strength, and he allowed Carberry to move a guy down a line, and that fourth line, Radish came out of the lineup, and he's a good player. But the 12 forwards they had all were going pretty well
Mm-hmm.
on what was it? Wednesday night, so it was last
Mhm.
night, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, the forwards were playing really well, and I like Protus back, and Alexiev. We lost Faravari, but I felt as the series went on, Alexiev got better and better, and I feel like he's gotten into a rhythm now
Mhm.
because he didn't play for 60 games. It's hard
Mhm.
to sit for 60 games. And you're going to come in a couple garbage games at the end of the year, and I'm going to throw you into a playoff series.
Yeah.
So I'm really impressed with how much he's progressed. So you got to feel really good about where the Capitals are right now. Knocking that game out with Montreal, a little bit of dicey at the start of the third, and
Mhm.
but they got the job done.
Yeah, and can you just talk about like Protus in terms of his return, like how big of that you talked about how important he was in terms of the power kill, but just in terms of just having him back on the ice in a closing game, like how big that was for this team and for other folks who didn't notice some of the key things he did throughout that game.
Yeah, he's a very good skater. He's a big man. He's a very good skater. He wins a lot of puck battles,
Hmm.
and he's very difficult to compete against along the walls. And he's a very smart hockey player too. He is a top six. You lose a top six from your lineup, it's going to hurt you. And getting him back, Hughes, he was arguably their best even strength player all season,
Wow.
Protus.
Hmm.
So he scored. I think he may have had the most even strength points in the league. He was certainly in the top five in the league. So
Hmm.
it was huge to get him back, and it's going to be a big factor because Carolina's a lot deeper. They have some really good players in Aho and Svechnikov, um, and that Pat, Pierre Luc Dubois is going to end up getting the call again to try and shut that line down, just like he did against the Suzuki line. So,
Hmm.
but Protus is big, and he'll play on that line with PLD. So he was on
Yeah.
that line, and that just gives them another
Hmm.
really solid line. And that Caulfield line did nothing. They did
Did
nothing in
nothing
Game Five
exactly.
with Protus back. They were pretty much shut down.
And was that the fourth line?
No, that's the Luc Dubois,
Hmm.
Protus,
Hmm.
and I forget who's on the other wing, but that is the second line.
No, second line. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Strom, Ovi, and I guess Beauvillier, and then it's Wilson, right? And then
Wilson. 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 Yeah.
Protus, PLD, and Wilson.
Hmm.
That's a line that's going to stop you from scoring and can score. Really big to get Protus back in the lineup.
Tom Wilson had the second power play goal. Just talk. He was physical. Obviously, what he did to Carvier the night before. The folks weren't sure he was going to play, but just talk about what the intensity he brought in, intensity that he brought in game five, excuse me, and also just him him consistently being the leader that this team needs.
Yeah, Tom was really good. I mean, I think Tom realized, yeah, well, made a lot of memes and Sports Center clips and went all over the place of him doing his crying on the bench with Josh Anderson.
Hmm.
You're not winning any hockey games by doing something on the bench. Let's put it
True.
that way, right? You're
True.
not going to
Yeah.
win hockey games that way. And I give Tom a lot of credit for his maturity and his leadership. And he basically said, sometimes I just need to shut up and play. And you know what? He did. He
He
When he
did.
plays hockey, he is a hard man to stop, and he will wear down the other team. And that's exactly what he did. And if he plays like that against Carolina, because Carolina's going to be just like Montreal. Rod Brindamore
Yeah.
is their coach. He's an old flyer guy. You know what I think about Philadelphia and all their teams, right? You
I
knew that.
know.
You knew that was coming, right?
I
Out of the
knew it was
time in
coming.
Philadelphia, the Broad Street Bullies that tried to ruin hockey back in the '70s. But Rod Brindamore, he's got that mentality, and Rod's a really good coach. I mean, he is a
Mhm.
very good coach. He totally outcoached Todd Reardon in 2019 when they ended the Caps Stanley Cup reign in that double overtime game in Game 7. And the Caps hadn't won a playoff series till this one. So,
Mhm.
but Stefan Carberry is a very good coach.
Very good coach.
I give him a lot of credit for, you know, making the adjustments he needed to do it at special teams, and also reminding the guys. It was actually the players actually said it was what he said after that second period in Game 4, where he said reminded them, "Hey, look, we had the most comeback wins in the NHL this year. If
Mm.
we did a lot of good things at even strength. Don't get caught up in the mistakes we made on the power play and on the penalty kill. Let's go out and play that third period of Game 4, even strength, do what we do best." And they did, and they came. They got back to that in Game 5. There were lulls, early at the start of Game
Yeah,
5, and then there was the desperation came back from Montreal to
of
start the
course.
third period. But overall, the Capitals just took care of business in Game 5.
I think it's important something that it's important to mention, like a team I like how the Capitals responded, knowing that Montreal was desperate. You know what I mean? I felt like they matched
Yes.
the energy. You know what I mean? And I think
Yes.
that's hard to do when you're up 3-1. And for instance, just to go up 2-0 in the first period was amazing to me. Again, with a team that was so desperate. And I want to give Montreal credit too. I felt like their young goaltender played. I thought Dubas played well. Like his stops were amazing. Like I think the Caps were just relentless. And
Yes.
that's the reason why they scored, like obviously the 2 power play goals, but they were relentless even when it was 5-on-5. You know what I mean? I just felt like the Caps after other than the beginning of the game, I thought the Caps were the more dominant, resilient team throughout. Other than obviously the third period, like you're referencing third period.
There's a little bit. The Caps sat back a little in
Yeah,
the
of
third,
course, of course,
and the
of course.
Caps, and we can talk about that. But the Capitals
Mm,
need to be an aggressive team. They're not a sit back team,
yeah.
and I agree with you 100% on the young Montreal goalie.
Oh,
I mean, Connor McMichael had a breakaway, could have made it
wow.
3-0. He stopped Connor McMichael. Tom Wilson gets an unbelievable pass,
Oh my,
gets a
that
great
one.
shot backdoor, and he made that. I mean, it could have
That
been
was
at
one.
least 4-0 in the
I
first
agree.
period.
I agree. That was the
That
one they
goalie,
called. That's the one that called my eye. Like that one. Like the one for Tom Wilson was a beautiful pass. And I'm sitting there like when it happens in real time, you're like, all right, was it like did he miss shoot it? Did he miss hit it? And then you look at hit it perfectly. It
yeah.
was just an amazing play by the Dubesh. Like I give him credit. That was an amazing play.
Yeah, that's one of those you just tip your hat and say, "Great save, dude."
Yeah,
And he did everything he could to try and keep his team in the game,
we did.
but the Capitals were just too good and too
They-
strong for them. I mean, Montreal's a future team. They got things they got to work on, but they could take some positives
I
from the
think
play of
so.
that young goalie. He came in and he certainly he had a barrage against them, and he
Yeah.
kept them in the game as long as they could.
Yeah, I'm with you. And just when you told me about Montreal initially, I was like, oh, what, But after watching them, they're definitely a team of the future. Like I do see what you're referring to. They're fast, skilled. They got a lot of great skill position players in terms of like their skill set. So I see it with Montreal. Like I can see it. Like maybe it made in a couple years they're going to be a real problem. It's almost like how the Toronto team was to me a few years back when I knew
Yeah,
like Toronto was going to be one of those teams.
they're coming if they can get a goalie, and who knows, it might be Dobes.
Yeah.
But they and they need some more depth. You can't
Yeah, of
rely on
course.
one line all the time in
I
the
know that's
NHL.
crazy. I know that's crazy. You're gonna tire yourself out. I totally agree with that.
You're not
So
going to win with one line. I mean, the teams that win the cup have 3 and 4 lines, right? I mean, you look at the
true.
Tampa Bay Lightning, the times they won.
Hmm.
Pittsburgh, when they beat the Caps those 2 years, they had 4 lines.
Yep.
Capitals, when they won, 4 lines. I mean, Smith Pelly had what, 7 goals that
I was
playoffs, and
crazy. I was crazy.
Brett Connolly on the third line had a ton. You've got to get Burakovsky. You got to get contributions up and down the lineup, and that's what I really like about this Caps team. I mean, all 4 of those lines can score.
Yep, I agree with you. So I want to go back to something you said, and I talked about the like this, penalty kill. And I'll stick with the penalty kill. What adjustments did coach make? Because like to me, Montreal's power play looked dominant throughout this series, but last night the Caps turned it up to a point where it looked like a Caps power kill team that I've seen when I was younger in terms of defense. For you, what was like the change?
I thought they were they did a better job of pressuring the guy with the puck to move it quicker than they wanted.
Okay, okay,
And I also thought they did a better job of Montreal's big play is the back door to Caulfield,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
The swing it over.
Oh,
Same thing like Ovi, swing it
Ovi, you're
over
gonna
him,
say
let him
something
get
like
that shot.
Ovi? Yeah,
I
exactly.
thought they did a good job of pushing Caulfield out a couple more feet
Mm,
towards the boards and a little further down, making it easier for Logan not to have to cover as much net when he comes over. And of course, LT played it really well every
he
time.
did. He
He
did.
knew when it was coming and was able to
Hmm.
slide over there, no problem. I thought they were technically very sound. The positioning was really well done, and they put a little more heat on Hudson to move the puck quicker.
Yeah, they did. I saw that though. They did put a little more pressure on him, and I liked how I felt like they compacted the middle better in terms of like they compacted the
Yes.
middle, like they were like trying to take away. They were really trying to take away that pass that I call it the OV pass. They were trying to take away the OV pass. But then when they had to your point, I felt they were aggressive with Hudson. Like they were very aggressive.
Yeah,
Um,
and to your point too, they didn't let Slavkovsky get in there and get position. He's
mhm,
very good at getting in front of that, getting position, maybe taking the goalie's eyes away, getting some
mhm.
rebounds, causing some havoc in there. and the defenseman did a good job of just not really letting him get in a good spot to do that.
All right, we gotta talk about. I love talking about the goalkeepers. You know that. You know that. I
Yeah,
love talking about the goalkeepers. 28 saves, only giving up 1 goal. Can we just talk about Thompson, his play last night?
he was incredible. He was the number one
Yeah.
star of the game again. Um, just so strong back there. It's like you almost wonder why Vegas got rid of him. Right? He is
Yeah, I
just
agree. Hmm.
this. He has so much confidence back there, and he made some big saves. There were some pucks that pinballed around. Montreal was doing what they try to do: throw a bunch of bodies in front of the net and
Hmm.
hope for something to hit off a shin pad or a skate, just get something to the net. And he was really dialed in. He really didn't give them anything. And when it got 3-1 there in the third period, they had a couple chances, and he made some big saves. And after the game, the Capitals locker room, those things are fun to watch. By the way, on
Yeah,
Instagram, those
they
clips.
are. They do a great job.
They gave LT the player of the game. It's usually the guy, one of the players gives it, and they gave it to LT, and he certainly deserved it. And it's, couple, after game three, LT gets knocked out of the game. We still don't have Protus back. You're wondering if LT's out for
Hmm.
the playoffs, and he comes back game four, plays really well, and then even better in game five, and get a couple days off here, and the Caps got to feel really happy about where they are. There's no real major injuries. They already have
Hmm.
adjusted with Faravari out. Alexiev, I think, has really stepped up, and so got to feel really good about where they're at right now. The goaltending is strong, and if something should happen, they have a really good backup in Lindgren, and he's played already in the playoffs. So,
Hmm.
um, it's not like they're going to be throwing an inexperienced guy in like Montreal had to do.
Yeah, I mean, he played. He was fantastic. He made it look easy. I mean, be
Yeah, he
honest with
did.
you, he made it look real easy. He would, to your point, like the confidence. He played with such. He played so calm.
Yeah,
You
he
know what I
did.
mean? He did. It
Hmm.
wasn't like he wasn't panicking. It was when he was in danger, you felt like, okay, he can make this save. I just thought he was really like, because some goaltenders are kind of erratic. He didn't look erratic. He looked, he didn't let rebounds go far. He covered up. He just looked calm. The moment didn't get to him at all.
Yeah, you're absolutely right because there were some big saves that
Hmm.
he really made look easy, and they weren't easy saves. Some of those
Hmm.
glove saves he had, he just kind of put his glove up and grabbed. He didn't do the flashy swing the glove or any of that.
Yeah.
But there were some quality saves, and the coaches saw it and the players saw it. He was the biggest reason. You got to have goaltending in the
Ah,
playoffs,
you know it. You know it.
and the Capitals' goaltending is better than Carolina's. And
Mm.
Anderson's hurt. I don't know
Ooh.
if he's coming back. And Kochetkov he's a good goalie, but I don't know that he's won a whole lot in the playoffs. He did get the win the other night against the Devils.
Hmm.
We'll see. I feel good about the goaltending going into round two for sure.
Me too. Me too. So for you, what was your key takeaway from this outing? The outing last night.
I like the structure and the discipline. Okay, I
Hmm.
like that when the whistle blew, there was none of that crap because
Yeah.
they're going to need to carry that over to the Carolina series because Carolina, you remember those last couple games in the regular
Yeah. The
season,
one
the
you let me.
Caps really
That
weren't.
game. Ooh, that was.
They weren't intense, and I warned you. I said, "Go watch this game because there's going to be a
Yeah.
fight," and there was
Yeah.
at the beginning
There
of the
was.
game, and then it kind of
Yeah.
settled down. But they're going to pick that back up. Carolina
Hmm.
is going to play with that Rod Brindamore flyer mentality, get in your face, try and get you to take a dumb penalty after the whistle, and the Capitals just need to stay out of it and let their game do the talking. Now, Carolina is a much more experienced team than
Yeah.
Montreal, so
Hmm.
they're going to have their hands. Sebastian Aho's their best players. Svechnikov's right there too. They got some quality players with some playoff experience. This is going to be a real tough series.
Hmm. So other than, and we're gonna go back to the Carolina. I'm at well. What we are for? I'll stay there because I don't want to go since we're there. Cat split 2-2 against Carolina. The two teams split. Um, what can what can the Caps take away from their matchups in Carolina that they can apply and be successful in the series with them coming up in the Eastern Conference semis?
Well, Carolina is typically a fast starting team, right? So you got to be
Hmm.
ready to go right from the get go. And you can't get caught up into their stuff, right? You have to play your structure.
Hmm.
Carolina's going to try and get you into their run and gun. They're going to try and get you into um, post whistle scrums. That's what they want. They're an offensive team. They have a lot of firepower. Um, they can score. And they can defend too, but
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey. Let's be honest, New Jersey didn't have the Hughes brothers. Jack Hughes has been out since just after the Four Nations game, tore his shoulder up, and he's going to be out for a long time. And then his brother Luke Hughes, a really good young defenseman, and he was out. So New Jersey was playing without two of their big players, and they gave Carolina. I know it was 4-1, but a lot of those games were close. But Carolina, I mean, these are the best two teams in the Metro Division, and it's what everybody expected was going to happen. Now, I did see today the money's coming in on Carolina. The betting odds have Carolina
Ooh,
favored.
really?
So,
Okay, interesting.
if I'm Stefan Carberry, I'm like, hey, people don't think we're going to win. I play the underdog roll up, right? Hey, they don't think we're going to beat them,
Yeah.
and I'm sure Ovi and Tom Wilson and John Carlson and Lars Eller remember that series after the series where they got knocked out as Stanley Cup champs in that first round. They were up 2
Mm-hmm.
nothing. The Caps were up 2-0 in that series
Yep.
and went down to that building. That is a really tough building to play in. It's very loud. The fans they're right on you, and Carolina plays really well at home. So the Capitals really need to hold serve at home and just find a way to get a split down there, and that'll really put Carolina behind the 8 ball. But it's going to be really a tough series, Wole.
And you're saying that Carolina's missing their goaltender, right?
Yeah, Anderson's out right now, the
Okay.
starter. So I don't know if he's coming back. It doesn't sound good, but
Okay.
they'll go with Kachekov. They rotated most of the year, and Kachekov has some playoff experience, but Anderson's the better goalie, and Anderson has a lot more playoff experience.
Okay. Let's go. I'm gonna go back to so obviously Thompson. We can say like was a player at the game, but other than him, who stood out the most to you last night
Well, I really for the Caps.
for the Caps? Yeah.
Yeah. So after LT, I would say that I thought Dylan Strome had another great game. Just moving the puck, number one center. Obviously, I was focused on Protas because I'm like, this is his first
Yeah.
game back. How's he going to do? I really like the way he played, but and I mentioned Alexiev really stepped up and has really filled the role. But um, there are a lot of guys that really played well. Connor McMichael using his speed, he's been good every game. So I just really the whole back end. And I thought Chikrin had his best game in the series too.
Yeah. He had a goal. He
Jacob
had a goal.
Chikrin,
Play
he
well.
got a goal. And he's so solid back there, and I thought that was his best game of the series.
I thought Riley Leonard looked good too. He looked
Yeah,
fast.
Leonard. Yeah, he's
He
just
looked
every
fast.
game he gets better and better and better.
Yeah.
He's adjusting, and it's tough. I mean, here's a kid who was playing at BC all year, right? And he's
Mm-hmm.
not playing which to his advantage. He wasn't playing 80 games, so he's got he's not as worn down as some of these
Mm.
guys. But he's a young kid. He had to come right in and learn basically playoff hockey. He got some
Mm-hmm.
games down the stretch, but you can see he's making play. It's close. It's
It's
close to
close.
clicking.
It's
I
close.
want to see that. I mean, he gets a goal. Look out. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what he can do. I mean, I know he's playing with Mangiapane. I think he's playing down with Mangiapane and Eller. It would be, he as he gets more maturity, he's going to be on one of the top two lines eventually.
Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
right now, he's playing the third or fourth line. I mean, you can go back and forth the bottom six with the Dowd line and the Eller line, which is which. I would probably say the Eller is really the fourth line, but because you got a
Mm.
Leonard down there and a Mangiapane who can skate and score, you know, uh, you could say they're the third line. So it's a lot of depth, and Leonard was a really. It's great that he came up because every game he gets better. He can skate. He's a great stick handler, and I just want to see more of that shot.
My friend George said Cats fans have taken over that building in Raleigh in the past.
Yeah, they
He
have. I
said they
mean,
have.
they will go down there and with because the OV boom,
Yeah.
they have done it in the past. But I remember in 2019 when the
Yeah.
Capitals lost that series, they lost all three down there, and there were a lot of blowouts because the Capitals got behind and those
Mm.
fans really took over. I mean, you can have a third or a half of the building down there,
Mm-hmm.
but when those fans get going, it's tough. They're good fans.
Yeah, especially playoff hockey, right? Like
Yep.
you're gonna have your diehards there. They're gonna try to support the home team, and it's gonna be hard to get the opposing fan base in there. Even though there's a lot in terms of all sports in the Carolinas, there's a bunch of Washington fans in all sports that are located in the Carolinas. So, but it's gonna be hard. Like I'm with you. Like after watching the game that you recommended me to watch before the end of the season, I saw that was a playoff hockey game. and
Yeah,
it wasn't the playoffs. That was a playoff hockey game. So I expect, like you, I expect this. I expect it to be tough. From if it's like anything that I saw in that game in the regular season, I expect it to be like a play. I expect it to go 6-7. To be honest,
yeah,
with
I do too. I expect this one to go deep.
you.
Brendan Moore's a motivator. He will have his guys ready to go and ready to be physical and come out and try and take any space away from the Capitals early. So the Caps need to be ready. But the Caps building the other night was electric. You know,
It
they were
was.
there.
It was.
They really helped the team. So I like having home ice, especially given
Yeah.
2019 Carolina won all three down there in their
Yeah.
building. So you got to find a way to win down there in this series and to end it early.
One thing I'll say, yeah, like our fan base is amazing when it comes to the Caps. Like they, especially playoff time, they come out and they show out. So I expect DC, was it Capital One now? Capital One Arena to be going crazy. Like I expect it to be insane. And don't let Ovi get the first goal again. It'd be chaotic in game one.
Yeah, once he scored that in game 5 like that, you could hear the
you
building.
knew it. You
the
knew
confidence,
it.
the fans were confident. You know,
Mhm.
the Caps never had to worry about the fans turning on them, and it was big.
It was. Once he scored that first goal, I was like, "Oh, this is over."
Yeah. Pickering gets one shortly after, and it was like, okay, that building was rocking.
It's over. Yeah, exactly. All right. So, Ed, before I let you go, give me your prediction in the Carolina series. We're going to do this again during the Carolina series in terms of we're going to break down game by game. But give me your prediction in that series. What do you think's going to happen?
Well, I think it's going to go at least 6, right? I'm hoping the Caps can win in 6.
I hope they win in 4. I'm gonna lie to you. I hope they win in 4. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they're a tough team to win. They're a tough team to beat in Raleigh. So, and you know, I think it's going to be really important to hold serve at home. But if they don't, you know, the Capitals have been a good road team all year.
Yeah.
So this team has won a lot of games on the road. I discount a little bit the 2 games near the end of the regular season because the Caps were already clinched.
Yeah.
Right. Carolina was still trying to solidify some things. They thought maybe they had a chance to get first, but I think when the Caps beat them in a shootout, that kind of ended that. So it's going to be very physical. Logan Thompson's going to be key. And hopefully they can get Kachekov off his game, and that could be the difference. The goaltending, I think the goaltending is the biggest advantage for the Capitals.
Yeah, and to your point that you said earlier, the Caps are getting healthier, right? They got one of their main guns back, so I'm sure they're extra confident going into this series.
Yeah, they didn't have Protas when they played those games at the end of the year. Protas is a big factor. He will be even more ready for game. You know, he just had 1 game back after being off 2.5, 3 weeks with a cut. He is going to be, you know, he's such a good even strength player, and he allows, like I said, Carberry to now get 4 lines he can put on the ice that can score.
Well, folks, you heard it. We're going for Caps in 6. Well, wistful thinking. I'm hoping it's over in 4, though. But you know,
we always are, right?
Exactly, because I don't want a heart attack. You know, I don't want that stuff. But anyway, folks, thank you for chiming in, George. Who else commented? George, Lou, Dujane. Appreciate you all for chiming in and with all your kind words and comments. But anyway, you've been listening to the Urban Sports Scene and my guy Ed. For ages, Yedig Deuces, we are out.
Peace.